There's this question I keep hearing from educators. It pops up a lot lately. It's basically, with agentic AI getting so, capable, what's actually left for me to do?
Right.
And you can see why people might feel a bit uneasy about that. But honestly, I think this isn't about teachers becoming obsolete. It feels more like a really fascinating evolution.
It really is, yeah. And I think to get a handle on this evolution, we kind of need to unpack what these agentic AI systems actually are. Because we're talking about something beyond just simple tools that, follow step-by-step instructions.
Okay.
Agentic AI, it can sort of take the initiative, it can tackle tasks more independently, adapt based on the context it's working with.
Right. So it's not just like answering a quick question or doing one specific thing.
Exactly.
These systems can actually make decisions using the data they have.
Yeah.
And connect different ideas to solve complex problems.
Yes, precisely. They can use reasoning chains, essentially.
Hmm.
And they can manage processes with multiple steps. Think about generating a first draft of something, then having the AI review it, and then refine it, all sort of semi-autonomously.
Wow.
And what's really interesting is they can even work with other AI tools or agents to get a job done.
Okay, that collaboration piece is key.
Mm-hmm. So if you think about it in a school setting, it's almost like having this digital teaching assistant, but one that's incredibly proactive.
Proactive how?
Well, it might be able to spot what a student needs, maybe even before they fully realize it themselves. It could tailor learning materials in a much more sort of fine-grained way and track how engaged students are without the teacher constantly having to feed it instructions.
Okay, right. Let's really dig into this then. Our goal here today is to figure out how this rise of agentic AI is, reshaping what it means to be an educator.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely sounds like we're moving away from that, traditional picture of the teacher as the main holder of information and more towards them being maybe designers of learning experiences.
Yeah.
And also supportive mentors. Is that the core idea?
I think that really captures the fundamental shift, yeah. If AI can take on a bigger chunk of the direct information delivery,
right,
then the uniquely human skills, the insights that educators bring, they become even more critical in actually shaping that whole learning journey for the students.
Okay, so what does that actually look like, day to day? Where are educators going to be focusing their time and energy now?
Well, one huge area is nurturing that human connection. I mean, even with the most sophisticated AI, developing a student's emotional intelligence, their ethical compass, their drive, that's still deeply human work.
Absolutely. AI can't replicate that empathy, that relationship.
Not at all. And then there's something we could call maybe pedagogical curation.
Pedagogical curation. Explain that a bit.
It means educators play this absolutely vital role in choosing, and really importantly, adapting AI-generated materials. You need to make sure it actually fits the learning goals, that it's genuinely useful for their specific students. It's like a chef taking great ingredients but knowing exactly how to combine and cook them for a specific dish for specific diners.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You can't just plug and play what the AI spits out. You need that human expertise to tailor it, right?
Spot on.
And I keep hearing this term prompt engineering. Feels important. What is that, essentially?
Prompt engineering. It's really about getting good at asking the right questions. It's about crafting queries that are precise, well-structured, queries that guide these agentic AI tools to give you the most useful results for learning.
So better questions lead to better answers from the AI.
Exactly. The better the prompt, the more targeted, the more relevant the AI's output will be. Think about the difference between just searching for climate change versus asking for, say, the specific impacts of rising sea levels on coastal communities in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Much more focused.
Interesting. So it's a real skill, knowing how to frame that request to get the AI to really, think usefully for you.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And you also mentioned AI supervision. What's involved there?
AI supervision is all about critically looking at what the AI produces. You have to ask, is this information accurate? Is the tone right for my classroom? Is it appropriate? Educators need to build that skill, that critical eye, to assess the AI's output and make sure it's actually beneficial and safe for students to use.
Okay, so checking for accuracy, bias, tone, all of that.
All of that. And then there's one more piece, metacognitive coaching.
Metacognitive.
Yeah.
Thinking about thinking.
Pretty much. It's about helping students become more aware of their own learning process, especially when they're working alongside AI. You're coaching them to reflect, how am I using this tool? What's working for me? How is this AI helping or maybe hindering my understanding?
Okay, wow. So it's not just teaching the subject anymore, but teaching how to learn with these new tools. That feels like a really significant shift towards deeper, more independent learning.
He really is.
Can you maybe paint a picture? Like, what might this look like in a real classroom setting?
Sure. Okay. Imagine students are working on, say, a history project. Instead of just staring at a blank document, maybe they use an AI agent to brainstorm potential research questions or generate a basic outline of different historical perspectives.
Okay.
Now, the teacher's role. It isn't just about grading the final paper. They're circulating, asking probing questions. Things like, okay, why did you choose that particular prompt to start your research? Or, interesting outline the AI gave you, what perspectives do you think it might be missing?
So the focus shifts. It's less about just the final product and more about the student's thinking process while they're collaborating with the AI.
Precisely, yeah. And you could even structure lessons differently. Maybe start with a quick reflection. Okay, class, what challenges did your AI assistant struggle with last time you were researching? How can we prompt it better today?
Learning from the AI's limitations, too.
Exactly. And then maybe wrap up the lesson by discussing, where did human insight really add value today? Where did you need to step in and correct or guide the AI?
That's a really powerful way to frame it. Focusing on that synergy, that teamwork between the student and the AI. And that brings us nicely to this idea of the human-AI feedback loop. How does that actually work?
Well, Agentic AI can be an incredibly useful feedback partner for students, actually.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, so a student writing an argumentative essay could ask the AI to critique it from multiple viewpoints, like review this as someone who agrees strongly, then review it as someone who's skeptical, or how would a historian react to this argument?
Wow, okay. Diverse perspective.
Exactly. Or maybe in coding, they ask the AI, can you spot any ways to make this code more efficient? Or in math, show me 2 other ways to solve this problem. It encourages broader thinking.
So it's like having this panel of experts or different audiences on demand. That's pretty cool. But where does the teacher fit into this feedback process? Are they just sort of letting the AI handle it?
Oh, not at all. Absolutely not. The educator is the guide for this whole feedback loop.
The guide.
Yeah. It's not about the teacher catching every single comma splice anymore. It's about teaching students how to use AI feedback effectively.
Yeah.
How to critically evaluate the suggestions, because AI isn't perfect.
Right. It can make mistakes or be biased.
Definitely. So teaching them how to revise based on useful input, and crucially how to make their own judgment call about when the AI's feedback is helpful and when it's maybe flawed or just not relevant.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. It's about building that critical evaluation skill in the student, empowering them to be more self-directed learners.
That's the goal.
Now, this all sounds incredibly promising, really exciting, but it also definitely feels like it requires educators to learn some new things, develop new skills.
Oh, absolutely.
So what kind of professional development do you think is going to be essential as we navigate this?
Yeah, PD is critical. It needs to cover a few key areas, I think. First, just fundamental AI literacy, understanding how these agentic tools actually work, what they can do, but also, importantly, what their limitations are. You need to know the boundaries.
Right. Understand the tool before you use it. Makes sense. What else?
Second, educators need practical strategies for weaving these AI agents into their actual teaching, into curriculum design, into how they assess learning, into just the daily routines of the classroom. It needs to be integrated thoughtfully.
So it's not just about knowing how to use, say, one specific AI program, but thinking bigger picture about how AI fits into the whole educational process.
Exactly. And maybe the most important piece, it's focusing on the mindset, fostering a mindset that's proactive, adaptable, curious. It's not just about learning the tech skills. It's about building confidence in working with AI, encouraging creativity in how we teach, and just being open to exploring how these tools can genuinely make learning better for students.
So it's both the practical how-to and that underlying shift in attitude and approach, being willing to experiment and learn alongside the tech.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And I think, for a lot of educators, there might still be that lingering worry, that fear about their role diminishing, maybe even disappearing. How do we tackle that anxiety head on?
We really need to actively reframe the narrative, because the truth is, AI doesn't make educators less important. If anything, it has the potential to seriously amplify their impact.
Amplify? How so?
Well, think about it. If you can delegate some of the more routine, time-consuming tasks to AI, maybe drafting initial lesson plan ideas, generating practice questions, handling some first-pass grading, what does that free you up to do?
Good point. More time for other things.
Exactly. More time for those really meaningful, in-depth feedback conversations with individual students. More capacity to truly personalize learning and support diverse needs in the classroom.
Right. The stuff that really requires human connection and understanding.
Yes. And even modeling lifelong learning. Teachers can explore these new AI tools with their students, figuring things out together. That's powerful modeling.
So the role really evolves, doesn't it? It becomes less about being the sole source of knowledge and more about being maybe a co-explorer, a learning coach, a curator of experiences and resources, both human and AI generated.
That's it, exactly. Co-learners, coaches, curators. Those are roles that are fundamentally enhanced, not replaced, by having sophisticated AI as a partner.
Okay, so the big takeaway here seems to be that agentic AI isn't sidelining educators at all. It's actually positioning them right at the heart of a new, maybe more dynamic kind of learning environment.
I genuinely believe that, yeah. We're shifting towards a model where educators are guiding not just what students learn, but maybe even more critically, how they learn to think, how they engage with complex information, and how they grow alongside these incredibly intelligent systems.
That's actually a really empowering way to look at it.
Yeah.
It puts the focus back on those core human aspects
Yeah,
of teaching and learning.
it does.
So the call to action then isn't really about fearing this shift or resisting it. It's more about leaning in, right? Learning about it, getting involved, and actively shaping how AI becomes part of the future of education.
Precisely. Let's not fear the shift. Let's try to lead it.
Yeah, let's lead it. And, thinking about all this, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it, as AI becomes this ever more sophisticated partner in learning, how might our very definitions of knowledge or even expertise start to change? That's definitely something to chew on.